you for tuning in to your one and only track and field bleacher report. I'm your host, the trackhead here, coming to you with this weekend's recap of the men's NCAA Division One track and field action. So there were a lot of quality marks put down on the track this past weekend. There wasn't a lot of head-to-head matchups between teams, but still there were a lot of quality marks and some fast times put down on the track this past weekend. In the men's 60, we have Jeryl Brazil from the University of Louisiana Lafayette, which is a school I have never really heard much about, but shout out to University of Louisiana Lafayette for breaking through and coming on the scene strong. Jeryl Brazil ran 6:55 this weekend at the LSU meet. They had LSU hosted a meet at home, which most of the team of LSU wasn't there, but LSU had a meet that they hosted at home. And Jeryl Brazil from University of Louisiana Lafayette ran a PR of 6:55 this past weekend. His previous PR before this past weekend was 6:76, so he shaved off 0.2 of a second off of his PR in the 60, which is huge. So we're gonna have to watch out for Jeryl Brazil and see if this 6:55 this past weekend that he ran at LSU is if it's going to solidify him amongst the top collegians this year in the men's 60. I mean, to run 6:55 right now, he's ranked number 2 for the men, but again, Jeryl Brazil really hasn't been in the top tier of the men's sprints. So we're going to have to watch out for him to see if he's a breakthrough competitor this year, or did he just peak too soon? But as the season progresses, we're going to put an asterisk mark beside Jeryl Brazil and see how this 6:55 continues for the rest of the season. So we're going to watch out for Jeryl Brazil. Marks like this, coming out of the blue from someone who you're not really expecting, could say that, maybe they're just having a breakout season and they were an underdog, and, there's someone that has a high ceiling, you just never know. Or it could be that, they just had a perfect race. Maybe he jumped the gun. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I didn't see the race. But 6:55, shaved off 0.2 of a second off of his PR. We'll see once he goes against some good competition in the next few weeks. Hopefully he'll lock up with somebody, a good school within the next couple of weeks, and see if this 6:55 is the real deal. Dwight Oduduru from Texas Tech, he PR'd this past weekend running at home. Dwight ran 6:60 in the 60-meter dash. It was converted from a 6:58. He actually ran 6:58, but since he ran at home and Texas Tech is at altitude, it was converted to a 6:60. Kemp of South Carolina State PR'd this past weekend running 6:63. Jalen Bacon from Arkansas State ran 6:64, and Kevorkian Carson, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name right, but Kevorkian Carson from Southern Mississippi PR this past weekend running 6:64. So shout out to those men's 60-meter individuals that had some quality times put down this past weekend. In the men's 200, so we have a lot more times coming through, some quality marks this past weekend. As I mentioned him in the men's 60 from Texas Tech, Dwight Oduduru, he's having a really great indoor season. He PR'd this past weekend running 20:25 at altitude at home. So Texas Tech, the Texas Tech athlete Dwight Oduduru is actually showing out to be one of the top sprinters this indoor season. So congratulations going out to him, and we're going to have to watch out for Dwight Oduduru as the season continues, because he's making his mark right now as a top contender in both the 60 and definitely the men's 200. Andrew Hudson, his Texas Tech teammate, also had an overall PR this past weekend of 20:49. He set that in the race with Dwight Oduduru at home at Texas Tech. So shout out to Andrew Hudson, and again, 20:49 at this point in the season is a really good time, and that's a time that could potentially get you to the finals at NCs and also potentially score. So Andrew Hudson from Texas Tech showing that he's potentially one of the top 200 runners this current season indoors. Elijah Hall from University of Houston, he has set an indoor PR of 20:51 at the Texas A&M meet this past weekend. So Elijah Hall is also having a good indoor season, and he's showing that he's not only going to be a force to reckon with in the short sprints, but the 200 as well. Terrell Smith from Kansas State, He ran a flat track converted time of 20:65. So Jeryl Smith from Kansas State, congratulations. In the men's 400, Marier Harris from Iowa, he set an indoor PR of 45:95 this past weekend. And also from University of Kentucky, the Kentucky freshman Dwight St. Hillaire, he ran at home this past weekend at the Rod McCravey Invitational at Kentucky. He ran 46:20, so he's chipping away at his indoor 400-meter times this season. In the men's 800, we had Marco Arop this past weekend run the number 2 ranked time in the for the men in the men's 800. He's a freshman at Mississippi State. He ran 1:47.62, which is a PR for Marco Arop. Also, Miles Marshall from Harvard University, he ran 1:47.67. So those two individuals were the 2 top runners this past weekend in the men's 800. In the men's mile, I feel like this video is dedicated to the men's mile. So the men's mile, 2 weeks ago, we had no collegiate break 4 minutes in the men's mile. And as of to date, between these last 2 weekends, now we have 21 sub 4-minute men's mile on the collegiate scene. So within these last 2 weekends, the men's miles times have been coming in, and they have been putting down some respectable marks, and it's showing that the men's mile is going to be, it's definitely, obviously it's going to take under 4 minutes to qualify for nationals, but it's probably going to be one of the fastest times to qualify for nationals this current year. One of the things that I have noticed a lot about the men's mile is that there are a lot of altitude converted times. So if you run a mile at altitude, they convert it, convert it down. So you actually, if you run like 401, 402, 403, they'll convert it down to 356, 357. Also, if you run the men's mile on a flat track, they'll convert it down as well as far as qualifying purposes for nationals. So I mean, it is what it is. Obviously, a flat track is slower than a bank track, and obviously, if you're running at altitude at a mile, it's it's going to slow you down. It's going to be at a disadvantage more so if you're running at a non-altitude event. So, but it is what it is. So, Josh Kerr from the University of New Mexico, the defending 2017 mile and 1500 champion from last year, he PR'd this past weekend, running the number 6 all-time mile time of 3:54. So congratulations to Josh Kerr from New Mexico. Casey Nevelbar from Southern Utah ran 3:55. That was altitude converted. Vincent Cietti from Virginia Tech ran 3:56. That was a flat track conversion. Patrick Joseph from Virginia Tech, he ran 3:56, which was also a flat track conversion. Neil Gorley from Virginia Tech ran 3:57. That was a flat track conversion as well. Zach Perrin from Colorado, he ran at home. He ran 3:57. That was converted for altitude. Ben Sorrell from Colorado, he ran at home as well. Ran 3:57. That was also converted for altitude. Cole Rockhold from Colorado State ran 3:58. Sean Tobin from Ole Miss ran 3:58 as well. Sam Worley from the University of Texas ran a converted altitude adjusted 3:58. Jonah Kowick from UTEP ran 3:58, which was also converted for altitude. And Colin Abert from Penn State ran 3:59. So those were all your sub 4-minute milers. So as the season goes on, as more sub 4-minute milers come in, I'm not going to list them all, but because a couple of weeks ago I was listing individuals that was running 4 flat, 401, I felt a need to list individuals that broke 4 minutes. But as the season goes on, if there are like 10, 15 individuals breaking 4 minutes every weekend, I'm not going to go down a list of all of them because now it's becoming the norm. But if you have someone that runs within the top 5 or 6 times, I may mention them. But as the season goes on, I'm not going to list anybody who runs 3:59. So you're probably going to have to run around 3:57, 3:58 or faster for me to mention you as the season progresses in the men's mile. The men's 3K, we had Justyn Knight from Syracuse. He ran at the Melrose Mile, getting second, a close second in the men's mile, and then 3K at Melrose in New York. He ran 7:54, which is a PR for him. So Justyn Knight, he showed that he could contend with some of the professionals on the scene. So Justyn Knight getting ready, as this is his last season, I believe. in the collegiate, so he's showing that he has a future potentially as a professional runner. So we'll see how that pans out in the future for Justyn Knight. But right now he's a collegian, and he's the #1 collegian in the 3K. Justyn Knight. In the men's DMR, we had a few teams run the DMR this past weekend. Indiana beat Stanford at the University of Michigan meet. Actually, Michigan ran in that race as well. Indiana ran the #1 time this season for the collegians, running 9:31. Stanford ran a 9:32, and that puts them at the #3 time this season. And Michigan ran 9:36, which puts them at a #6 time for the season. In that race, Indiana pretty much got the jump on Stanford at the 1200 leg. So the pop-off leg ran a couple of seconds faster than Stanford's pop-off leg, and their 400 and 800 runners were pretty even, as well as their mile legs were pretty even. So that race really came down to the 1200 leg, and Indiana had the better 1200 leg over Stanford. I kind of felt like on paper, Stanford had the roster to have one of the best DMRs this season, and they did run. Grant Fisher opened up his indoor collegiate debut because he had never run indoor for Stanford since he's been at Stanford. But Grant Fisher finally ran his first indoor race as a Stanford Cardinal this past weekend, running the DMR, the anchor leg of the DMR. But he split like 3:58 on anchor, but also did Indiana's Kyle Mayu split 3:58 as well. So they were matched on their, like I said, they were matched pretty evenly on their 4, 8, and 1600 legs. But the 1200 leg for Indiana ran like 2:55, and Stanford's pop-off ran 2:57 on the 1200 leg. So that gave Indiana the advantage. But we'll see as they continue the season how those two schools play out, and we'll see if Stanford can run a better time as the season goes on. So like I said, it wasn't a lot of action. It was some action, some quality marks going on this past weekend, but it wasn't a lot. Mostly the men's miles made the most noise this past weekend. So next weekend, I know there are going to be a lot of invitationals, a lot of schools coming together and running in some of the big invitationals. So this coming weekend will be very exciting to watch, and there will be a lot of head-to-head lockups between some of the major schools, and so I'm sure there'll be some fast times, some quality marks. This past weekend, it wasn't a lot going on in the field, so I didn't report a lot on any of the field events, but still, we had some quality marks, and we had some people break through. And so this week, I'll say my highlight runner will be Dwight Oduduru from Texas Tech, because he put down a great time in the 60, and as well as the nation's leading collegian in the 200 of 2026, I think. So Dwight Oduduru from Texas Tech, he's my men's highlight athlete of the weekend. So congratulations, shout out to Dwight Oduduru. Thank you for watching this video. If you've gotten this far, I appreciate you watching the video. Hopefully, as the season continues, we'll have some better videos. We'll have some more information. We'll have some better marks to talk about, and we can do some other things with the channel as the season progresses. But thank you for watching the video. I appreciate it. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like, share, comment, and we'll talk about it here as the season progresses on the Track and Field Bleacher Report. Thank you.